ends for 4.5 hours later. Now, did they fire that reporter? No. Right? And look what happened to Roseanne. Did they fire Roseanne? Yes.
Well, I was at my mom's house in Salt Lake, and, I was very happy. And
I'm trying to talk about Iran. I'm trying to talk about Valerie Jarrett wrote the Iran deal.
I know, but you've told me this 3 times.
my show was #1 after 20 years to come back and be #1. And,
if your kid wasn't here, I would take the opportunity to remind you that people who live in glass whorehouses shouldn't throw stones.
I've been called every name in the book for, since the first time I stepped on stage and before that.
That's what my tweet was about.
I know, you've explained this literally 300 times.
I thought the bitch was white! God damn it! I thought the bitch was white!
And then I went back to sleep. And when I woke up in the morning, it was all over.
Horace? Horace? Where the hell are you?
Hey, Daddy.
Horace Horsecollar, there you are.
What's up?
I'm about to talk about some really forgotten and obscure cartoon characters, so I figured why not enlist the help of a forgotten cartoon character to help me out with this.
Excuse me.
Did you know that Roseanne Barr tried to make not one, but 2 cartoons in the 90s?
Unfortunately, I do. Even locked away in the Disney vault, they subjected us to some weird shit in there.
Tell me
everything.
Walt's head is totally still in there.
Oh my god, I'm fucking hungry now.
Okay, Twinks, gather round, Daddy. Before we start talking about Roseanne, let's definitely talk about the decade in which the Spice Girls and Lisa Frank dominated 90% of my personality. In the 90s, cartoons just kinda hit differently. If you were there, you know what I'm talking about. However, the 90s were kind of a turning point for cartoons here in the West. They went from being like 30-minute toy ads to something a little bit more meaningful.
You mean to tell me you didn't beg your parents for He-Man and Ninja Turtle action figures after each episode?
No, I actually begged for She-Ra action figures.
Hi, sisters.
But then the 90s hit, and studios like Warner Bros. And Disney gave us animated gems like Animaniacs and DuckTales. These shows were fucking fire, and you cannot tell me otherwise.
I was more into gargoyles myself.
I'm low-key kinda mad that they didn't move forward with your show that they had planned, though.
I was too much for Disney in 1942, let alone the 90s.
You's a bitch.
Oh my god! Anyway, thus the Disney Channel in the late 80s proved that original content could indeed be profitable without relying on toy companies, giving other studios such as Nickelodeon
a masterclass in neglectful parenting and being quiet on set.
Excuse me, bitch!
Plus, the rise of anime in the West with shows like Sailor Moon introduced epic stories and deeper emotional content, and Americans had no idea how to process this.
You know, my introduction to anime was actually Nick Jr. with shows like The Noozles, Little Bits, and even Grimm's Fairy Tale Classics.
And look how you turned out, Daddy.
But Daddy, I love them.
But still, even educational shows like Captain Planet managed to be fun while teaching valuable lessons, for the most part anyway.
They're cutting down the trees. Then I guess we'll have to plant some more. Attaboy, Captain. Let's spruce this place up a bit, huh?
And let's not forget the celebrities jumping on the bandwagon. Some hit the mark, like Bobby's World, while others, not so much.
Stop! My God!
Enter Roseanne Barr. Or, I guess Roseanne Arnold, as she was married to Tom Arnold at the time. I'd argue that her last name really isn't relevant, because when you say Roseanne, you think of this woman.
God, if my boss calls me doll one more time, I'm gonna deep fry his face.
Roseanne was a pretty prominent figure back then, known for her sitcom and for being somewhat of a champion of the working class within Hollywood.
She definitely had her moment in the spotlight.
But then her reputation took a nosedive faster than you can say Twitter rant. It was like watching a train wreck in real time.
A very loud train wreck, filled with Ambien and racism.
Speaking of celebrities with cartoons, we can't pretend that they were all bad either. Bobby's World was fucking awesome, and you know what? So was Life with Louie.
Can we get this cat? Please, Mom, please. Oh, this is the greatest cat ever. Oh, come on, Mom, please.
Oh, no. Cats lick the butter.
What?
Oh, yeah. They jump on the counter. They lick the butter. You eat that butter.
What are you trying to do, kill us? You butter licker.
Dumbass motherfucker.
You know, I even enjoyed Camp Candy, although I haven't met many people who have positive things to say about it, but I really like this nurse's design, and I think you should know that.
Yeah, but those shows actually had some heart.
Then there were the less successful ones, like Kid and Play. That was more of a promotional stunt than a real show, I think.
Oh, I remember that one. Barely lasted a season.
Yeah, Roseanne's attempts were even worse. They didn't just miss the mark. They missed the whole fucking target. So Horace, let's jump into the most cringeworthy celebrity cartoon ever.
Oh boy. Here we go. But you know what kind of show it will be when they high-five.
This fucking piece of shit was loosely based on Roseanne Barr's childhood. It was produced by Nelvana, the same studios that gave us Rupert, the Care Bears, and even the Magic School Bus.
What's that? Girl, that's a booty hole. Not a hole, Keisha. A valve.
The premise was simple enough. The show centered around an 8-year-old girl named Rosie, clearly modeled after a younger Roseanne, and Rosie's sister Tess, based on Roseanne's real sister Geraldine.
She's what we in the business call a lesbian.
And then also her best friend Buddy, who rounded out the main trio. Buddy was actually based on Roseanne's then husband, Tom Arnold, who was voiced by Noam Zilberman. You might recognize him as the voice of Fritz from the Nutcracker Prince, and if you don't, I definitely did.
I don't care. He's not even a real soldier. Ha! He doesn't even have a sword.
No fun's the one that took all the balls.
Balls? Where?
The show featured a host of recurring characters, including Rosie's parents, her youngest sister Nani, voiced by Lisa Yamanaka, who also voiced Wanda in the Magic School Bus.
What's that?
Girl, that's Lisa Yamanaka, and we already did that bit. You can fuck off. And her baby brother Tater, who's based on Roseanne's real brother Ben.
He's gay.
I do kind of wonder how Roseanne's siblings feel about Roseanne's descent into right-wing conspiracy theories, considering they're both part of the LGBTQ+ community. But honestly, that's none of my business, as they're not involved in this, and families should, for the most part, be left out of any commentary.
There were also a pair of antagonistic rival science nerds thrown into the mix, perpetuating the boomer stereotype that smart equals bad and untrustworthy.
Hey look, I'm both a twin and a nerd, and I can assure you, only one of those things are bad. Anyone want a free twin brother? Anyway, even though the show had the potential to be something pretty good, it just sucked. And not in a fun way.
They tried to ride the coattails of Muppet Babies and Rugrats, but it was more like a sad knockoff.
I think this show suffered from a major identity crisis, similar to the one that I had when I lived in the closet. This resulted in a show that was too mature for children, but too childish for adults. It was fucking confusing. Like, who was this actually for? Each episode consisted of 2 11-minute segments. The formula was simple. Rosie would face a problem, fantasize about a superpower or a fantastical situation, and then learn a life lesson. Like, the premise for this show has been done 1,000 times before, but better.
It's very
very annoying.
And let's not forget the late Saturday morning time slot. No one was tuning in back in the days where kids actually played outside.
Yeah, that definitely didn't help. And neither did Roseanne, and this was her fucking show. The show couldn't find its footing and ended up being a massive flop. This show left very little lasting impact, and pretty much only leaving us scratching our heads asking the question, wait, Roseanne did a cartoon? Well, she technically did too, but we're gonna get there, twink. It's so forgotten that finding full episodes was like searching for a needle in a haystack. I only managed to find 3 full episodes, thanks to a woman literally named Karen on Facebook who uploaded them to her profile. Thankfully for me, her posts were public.
Wow, even Karens have their moments.
I tried watching some of the full episodes and I couldn't do it. Not even for you, my beautiful viewer. Super Rosie is the only one I managed to finish without flatlining, and that's because I took a 30-minute break in between. So never tell me that I don't do anything for you, okay?
Freeze! You don't have to swallow that.
I'll swallow whatever the hell I want to.
Horace, you're a fucking slut. Roseanne also tried to throw the show under the magic school bus, even though all of the creative decisions were hers and hers alone.
Yeah, like shoehorning a kid version of her husband into that mess.
Yes.
But that could have been Buddy himself, which I have some opinions on.
Not my buddy, guy.
Anyway, do you remember those My Buddy dolls?
Oh my fucking god, those things were horrifying. After watching Child's Play for the first time, actually, my brother and I tried to bury Oz in the backyard, but my mom found them. She cleaned them up and put them back on our beds. We were convinced that they returned to kill us. Ultimately, Little Rosie was a failure due to missed opportunities and misguided creative choices. It's a perfect example of how not to translate a celebrity's persona into a cartoon.
It ended up putting kids to sleep, only to block Route 11 on Pokemon Red and Blue. And of course, Yellow.
Kim Kardashian.
So we've covered Little Rosie, and unfortunately there's not a whole lot to talk about because it's really not much of a show. But we can't skip over the equally infamous and forgotten follow-up, the Rosie and Buddy show. Do you even remember why they came up with that one?
Girl, not this. Anyway, this one's got a backstory. Tom Arnold convinced Roseanne to fire her management team and hire him instead.
What could possibly go wrong? My bad, I randomly gag and
Girl,
hiccup sometimes.
I need to not. He managed to shoehorn himself into many of her projects as a character named Buddy.
My buddy, my buddy, my buddy.
The nickname Buddy originates from Tom's own mother thinking he resembled Buddy Hackett in childhood.
I don't see it.
Thus the nickname stuck.
Yeah, I still don't see it.
Tom also thought this show would help solidify Roseanne's brand among children, so that it wouldn't die with her aging audience.
Oh my fucking god, they fucking did.
Their relationship was, let's say, tumultuous.
The show starts with Rosie and Buddy leaving a chaotic city in a van and heading to Cartoon Land. Cartoon Land, really?
Even cartoon characters knew to steer clear of them. She also almost murders the Care Bear cousins.
Wow, so this is Cartoon Land.
Yeah, it makes me want to puke.
It's interesting why the Care Bear cousins were included in the show. Nelvana created the Care Bears cartoons back in the 90s, which Hasbro owned the rights to the original Care Bears. The cousins were specifically created by Nelvana for the show, which is why they got speaking roles in this special. Meanwhile, the original Care Bears only got brief cameos lasting less than 5 seconds, later halfway through the special.
Copyright issues, am I right?
Hey Horace, do you think Disney will come after me for using you in this video?
Daddy, just put a W in front of my name and they'll never notice. Plus, I enter the public domain in less than a year, so you can use me however you want.
She's a gold digger, she's a slut, she's a whore.
So they get to Cartoon Land, and what's the first thing that Rosie does? heads straight to the fridge and finds out that the food items are now sentient cartoon characters. And instead of freaking out, she just casually devours them.
That does seem like something Roseanne would do, to be quite honest with you.
Hey, what's going on? She's gonna eat me! Huh? Whoa!
Then they meet this business weasel named Mr. A. Powers. He's not happy with their antics, and he insists there's a proper way to do things in Cartoon Land.
So, there's that.
He drags them to his office, and Mr. Powers introduces them to the other Powers, who are also all weasels, and also all think cartoons should be either cute like the Care Bears,
and my girl, Strawberry Shortcake,
or tough like those big scary robots. Obviously a nod to Transformers, but hey, they can't say the name because copyright, am I right?
This is a fun moment.
Rosie and Buddy, being themselves, then decide to present their ideas through a VHS tape.
Buddy, let's show them the kind of thing we had in mind.
Can't wait to meet you. So join the animatronic pack.
We open real soon. Try your best to hold. Oh my god. Catchy tune there. Very catchy tune.
Anyway.
The tape turns out to be a bunch of old and tired parodies. Naturally, the Powers hate it, and so do I.
They get wicked mad that there's like no ad slots or toys to sell, but who the fuck would want Roseanne toys? It could have been a really great commentary on how cartoons were marketed back then, but that opportunity was squandered by bad writing and storytelling.
And what's funny about that is, despite being 30-minute segments designed to sell toys, the shows they're criticizing have gone on to have a much longer-lasting cultural impact than this forgotten dumpster fire.
Rosie and Buddy wanted to make people laugh, but so far they haven't succeeded. So then they do this parody of 80s and 90s cartoons that were basically toy commercials. So naturally, Rosie and Buddy have to murder a bunch of cartoon children. Obviously.
Nothing says ha-ha like child murder. Just ask Netanyahu.
You need to leave.
And since Rosie and Buddy are clearly out of their minds, they're sent to the Veronica and Betty clinic. Ironically, that's where the real Roseanne belongs. Are you laughing? Do you get it?
Archie Comics, Riverdale, Hardy Haw. Also, can somebody get me the number of KJ Appa? Okay, thank you, darlings.
That boy ain't right.
No, but for real, if you do happen to get his phone number, feel free to forward that to fossildaddy2@gmail.com. K, thank you. Also, as Rosie and Buddy try to escape the clinic, they notice that there are other cartoon characters there. Also, that's clearly a green Beetlejuice, right?
Yes, Nelvana created the Beetlejuice animated series at the time, but because Beetlejuice was airing on Fox Kids while this aired on ABC, they had to make him look more like a rotting corpse to avoid copyright issues. Huh. Seems to be a running theme in this special.
They end up in a One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest parody that just drags on and on. It's supposed to be funny, but it's really just kinda cringe. Especially since most kids won't actually understand the reference, and most adults just won't care.
And of course, they had to throw in a People's Court parody for good measure, as if 1992 didn't have enough of those already.
Persons of the jury, just because my client has a 20-story ponytail, the defendant proceeds to make a fancy entrance, thereby stealing the limelight for perpetuity.
What you doing there, Bill? Satellite dish trouble?
No, I'm just up here to kill myself.
Finally, they return to the clinic and free the inmates of the very intensive care unit. They get surrounded by the Powers, but by the power of friendship, they're able to escape.
The show ends with them riding off into the sunset, only to have the backdrop fall during a retake. Perfect metaphor for the whole thing, really.
It's pretty clear why there was no follow-up series, as this was intended to be a pilot.
And not even the fun Brazilian kind.
Come, fly with me, gatinha.
The whole thing was a mess from start to finish. The characters were unlikable, the parodies were stale, and the plot was all over the place. Honestly, it was messier than my love life in my 20s, and let me tell you, girl, like, that was a fucking mess. The animation quality also, it wasn't terrible, But it also wasn't enough to save the show. And having Roseanne and Tom Arnold voicing their own characters didn't really add anything of value in my opinion. It just felt forced and unfunny.
They tried to make it edgy and satirical, but it just came off as mean-spirited, which I'd normally be into, but it was poorly executed. Also, considering how tumultuous Roseanne and Tom's relationship was, his inclusion in these shows is somewhat problematic in retrospect.
Yeah, we should probably talk about that. So they got married in 1990, January actually of 1990. Even though Roseanne had some reservations due to her own personal issues, he somehow convinced her to move forward with him anyway. At their reception, Arnold quipped, "We're America's worst nightmare, white trash with money." As if that's not an omen of things to come.
Tom Arnold went from being an occasional guest star on Roseanne's hit sitcom to an executive producer. As I mentioned before, he convinced her to fire her management team and hire him instead.
But by 1994, just 2 years after the Rosie and Buddy show, rumors of Arnold's affair with his assistant Kim Silva led to a breaking point. They even announced a bizarre plan to both marry Silva, with tabloids offering Silva money for the details.
Classic tabloid drama. You know, I've been in my fair share of thruples before, but Clarabelle got jealous of me and Goofy. She was a little upset when she realized I wasn't really into udders, if you know what I mean.
I do not. But then in April of 1994, a massive argument on the set of Roseanne resulted in Barr firing Arnold, filing for divorce, and obtaining a restraining order. He was not her buddy.
I'm not your friend, buddy! I'm not your buddy, guy! He's not your guy, friend! I'm not your friend, buddy! We're not your buddies, guy! I'm not your guy!
She accused Arnold of physical and verbal abuse throughout their entire marriage, stating, "I now realize that I have been a classic battered and abused wife." She later took that back. Barr detailed incidents of hitting, object throwing, pinching like he was a 5-year-old.
And that is just scratching the surface.
Yeah, I think it's definitely fair to say that Roseanne's trauma is exactly what made her who she is today.
Joe Biden raped me right here in that dress.
A racist, terminally online Twitter conspiracy theorist.
That's the truth. And nobody died in the Holocaust either.
No.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
It should happen. 6 million Jews should die right now because they cause all the problems in the world, but it never happened. But it never happened.
Can you shut the fuck up?
Their professional ties made the breakup even messier. Despite withdrawing her divorce petition briefly, Barr refiled weeks later. In the fallout, NBC rushed out a biopic about their volatile relationship. Roseanne and Tom. Ooh, child, it was a mess.
I am not gonna lie, I actually watched the biopic when I was researching for this video, and I actually really loved it.
The movie's coming to NBC tomorrow. Enter America's scariest house.
We don't have any candy. We ate it. Go away.
Roseanne and Tom, a more frightening tale doesn't exist.
America's worst nightmare. White trash with money.
Oh my fucking god, I miss the 90s so much sometimes. During the divorce, Arnold starred in a movie called True Lies.
Great movie, by the way.
Yeah, it is a great movie.
That's why I said it.
And he complained to director James Cameron about Barr's behavior during the divorce, which led to the infamous line in the movie.
And the house is completely empty. And I mean completely empty. She even took the ice cube trays out of the freezer. What kind of a sick bitch takes the ice cube trays out of the freezer?
Fucking Clarabelle cow. Years later, while filming I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, Arnold reflected on their chaotic marriage, mentioning Barr's multiple personality disorder. It's like this man is singing my whole life.
Even after Roseanne stopped making her own cartoons, she remained a frequent target in the animated world through relentless parodies and satirical portrayals. Shows like Tiny Toon Adventures, which I honestly really love to this day, often featured exaggerated caricatures of Roseanne, highlighting her brash persona and larger-than-life presence. And of course, her insatiable hunger, because the 90s had a thing for fat jokes.
Yeah, the 90s weren't exactly subtle with their fat phobia. Just look at The Critic. Honestly, a great and largely underrated show, but it was low-key built predominantly on fat jokes that have not aged well.
We want the pig! We want the pig! We want the pig!
There he is.
These depictions reflected a deeper cultural disdain for Roseanne as a public figure. On Tiny Toon Adventures, Roseanne was frequently portrayed in various segments. One notable segment was Roseanne, where she was depicted as excessively gluttonous, constantly overindulging in food, and portrayed as a larger-than-life character with an insatiable appetite. This wasn't just a funny gag, it was a reflection of how society viewed her. Loud, brash, unapologetically herself, frankly, and also an easy target for fat shaming.
They really didn't hold back.
Another memorable moment was when she sang the national anthem, only to fall off the balcony and squash Fifi LaFume after saying,
It isn't over till the fat lady sings.
Or the land of the free and the home of the brave!
This exaggerated portrayal wasn't just about making fun of her singing the Star-Spangled Banner at the San Diego Jack Murphy Stadium in 1990. It was a direct jab at her weight and public persona. Throughout the entire Tiny Toon series, she often made cameos, typically overindulging in food or engaging in excessive gambling.
Definitely reinforcing the idea of her being excessive in all aspects of life.
One of the most notorious examples of this ongoing mockery was her appearance in Celebrity Deathmatch, an animated series known for its brutal and, arguably cruel takes on celebrities. In one infamous episode, an even more obese version of Roseanne dies of a heart attack after consuming Kelsey Grammer, throwing him up, and then trying to crush him to death with her own weight, only to squeeze him out of his own skin. The mere sight of him put her into cardiac arrest.
Boo. My heart! Kelsey Grammer is the winner!
This portrayal wasn't just commentary on her weight, but also a manifestation of the intense negativity that she attracted from various parts of the entertainment industry. The exaggerated depiction highlighted not only her physical appearance, but also the public's eagerness to see her as a figure of excess and downfall.
Ooh. It's wild to think how normalized that kind of commentary was back then.
Now, I don't really subscribe to the idea of health at every size, but the constant mockery of her size often overshadowed any legitimate critiques of her behavior and perpetuated harmful stereotypes about body image. Regardless of your size, I think everybody is entitled to be treated decently. While some of these jabs might have been meant to be funny, they also underscored a societal issue where body shaming was commonplace and even encouraged. I won't lie though, I did get a kick out of the Tiny Toon parodies when I was younger, and I still do to a degree even today. Though I do understand that the context as being widely problematic kind of taints my experience, but I still try to push past it.
Roseanne's story is a complex one. She was a trailblazer in many ways, challenging norms and speaking her mind. But she also became a lightning rod for controversy.
The cheese curds have traveled from her vagina into her brain and she can't think.
Her ventures into animation, both directly and indirectly, reflect the highs and lows of her career. And speaking of her lows, it's hard to ignore her recent downfall. Roseanne's racist tweets and conspiracy theories have pretty much destroyed her reputation.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate to see how much she's fallen from grace. Even after her fiasco at the Padres game in the 90s, she was always able to bounce back. But there doesn't really seem to be a road to redemption for her most recent controversies. And today, she's seen more as a problematic figure than the groundbreaking comedian that she once was. Her attempts in animation, much like her recent actions, I personally think are left better off in the past.
It's almost like looking at a different person entirely. The animated caricatures of her almost seem tame compared to the real-life controversies she's been involved in lately. She is still involved in animation, though. She voices the principal in Mr. Bircham.
I already talked about that, though. You should go watch that next, Twinks.
Just do as I tell you, Twink. Okay.
Reflecting on her animation attempts now, they seem like relics of a bygone era. An era that, like many aspects of Roseanne's career, we're better off leaving in the past.
1 minute she's a groundbreaking comedian, and the next she's a right-wing nutjob tweeting conspiracy theories from her mother's basement. It's like her career devolved into one endless Twitter storm.
It's like her mind is a mixed bag of bigotry and terrible ideas.
A very mixed bag. Like a bag of trail mix where all the M&Ms have been replaced with raisins, or ordering a margarita and finding out they replaced the tequila with water. Just disappointing.
Anyway, let me know what you think down below. Feel free to like and subscribe, and maybe become a supporter on Ko-Fi and Patreon.
Daddy, it's pronounced coffee.
And if you want to support the channel, I'll be sure to link how you can do so below. With that being said, see you next time.
And of course, never forget.
I thought the bitch was white! God damn it! I thought the bitch was white! Fuck!
Also because it's in here and I can't not do it.
Kim Kardashian.
It's one of my I love that bit every time it's on here. It cracks me up. I love it so much. It is so funny. Anyway.